Have y'all ever seen the show on the Food Network, Chopped? Let me see if you've seen that show. Okay, so Friday, Terry comes to school to get ready for school, and somehow her students had found this red picnic basket of ours, and they had it sitting out, and they had put some stuff in it. And they said, "Mom, would you be the judge? We're going to play Chopped." And so they had all kinds of stuff in there. You know, it's just all, I forget, there was cucumbers and all this stuff. And they said, "Now we know what you always do. You always say, 'I'm not going to judge,' but you have to judge." Because Terry will say, "I'm not going to say who's the winner." They'll color, you know, and tell us who wins. "No, Mom, you have to tell us who wins today." So they played Chopped, and there's all this stuff in that basket. It was the most clever, creative, and I laughed and laughed and laughed. And then after they were through with that, after they were through with their Chopped thing, Mary invited Brooks into the spa, and so she put those cucumbers from her Chopped basket on his eyes, and Terry's got this picture on her phone. I've been teasing Brooks. That's going on Facebook, buddy. Anyway, so it was that kind of a Friday, and I mean, just laughing, full of joy. And then Friday night, I saw something at the basketball game that took my breath away, and I go from this incredible laughing joy to this deep pain of like, are you kidding me? I mean, it's just like, and then yesterday, kind of the same thing, just this neat morning and neat day, and then go to the, what is it about basketball that does that? It's a killer. Anyway, it's like, I mean, even deeper than the pain Friday night was last night's pain. It's just like, wow. And then today, the joy again. I pray there's no pain here today. Anyway, so I don't know what you're going to get. That's all of that was not the intro. It was like, I can't promise you if you're going to get the joy or the pain today, or both. But anyway, so we've been looking at the life of David. If you're visiting with us, we've been at this thing probably for 3 months now, and just kind of been digging into what made David tick. Why was he a man after God's heart? And we've looked at the good, we've looked at the bad, and one of the things that we saw last week was, you know what? I mean, this wasn't the sermon, but through that, here's David, a man after God's heart, that did all this incredible stuff, and yet in one instant, he walked in the most heinous sin. Proverbs says, all men are like grass. Here's a little tip, okay? This isn't the sermon, a little tip. Don't ever come to the place when you go, I'll never do that. Really? Listen, all men are like grass. I am this close. I mean, I'm a second away from the vilest. I am. We are people of depravity, and I have to know that. And it's only the grace of God that we read about, that Jerry read out of Ephesians 2. So anyway, what I was going to say is that you come here today, and it's okay not to be okay. It is. We're learning together. It's okay not to be okay. I come wounded, and I've got my stuff, and yet I'm a man after the heart of God. So we've been looking at David, and we've come to 2 Samuel chapter 23. This is one of my favorite stories. I could not wait to get to this. So you're going to need two little places primarily where we're going to be is 2 Samuel 23, and the war that's going on here is the same war that was referred to in chapter 5. So we're going to go from 23 to 5 back to 23 to put these two things together, okay? This is awesome. If you have a bottle of water, I know if you're cotton mouth and you're wanting to drink it, but hold on to it because we're going to use that at the end, okay? Have you already drank? Is it drank or drunk? How many of you have already polished it off? Stony? No. Attaboy, okay. I thought for sure. All right. Okay, chapter 23. We're going to start in verse 13. During harvest time, 3 of the 30 chief men came down to David at the cave of Adullam. Stop right there. The cave of Adullam. I think I've heard that before. Right? We spent 2 or 3 weeks talking about the caves. But wait a minute. They're coming at the cave. I thought the cave was a bad thing. I mean, the cave of Adullam, remember, that was where he was running for his life. King Saul was after him. He was hopeless. There was defeat. He was depressed. He was in the pit. I mean, I thought that was the cave. What's he doing here now? Listen, this isn't a sermon, but you got to know this. Listen, I know some of you are in a tough spot. It's like things are hopeless. If something doesn't happen today, I don't know what I'm going to do. I mean, you are in this place, and you have hidden, and you've cried out, and you've whatever, and you've hurt, and it's this. You've been hiding, just trying to survive, trying to defend yourself, and this all of a sudden that's what this was. And now it's a place of rendezvous. It's like, hey guys, we're going to go, let's meet at the cave of Adullam. Really? You mean the place that was so bad is now a place that you want to? Yeah. Listen, when God redeems something in you, all of a sudden the thing that was so painful now becomes one of your places of greatest strength and greatest joy. There is an event in my past that I thought was the end of the world, and yet God reached in and redeemed and delivered and forgave and all those things, and now it's the strongest thing in my life. Isn't that amazing? The redemption of God. And that's what's going on here at the cave of Adullam. And so he's rendezvousing his men, these 30 men, and they come to this cave. And it's become his favorite spot. Why is that painful thing my favorite spot now? It's because God met me there. It's because God delivered me there. It's because God filled me and gave me life and gave me hope again. That's kind of what was going on with David, okay? So, keep going. So they met at the cave while a band of Philistines was encamped in the valley of Rephaim. Okay, stop right there. The valley of Rephaim, we're going to go back now to chapter 5, verse 17. Okay, so as you're turning there, ever since the defeat of the Israelites, remember Saul and his sons, that battle where Saul and Jonathan and his other sons got killed. Ever since that day, the Philistines, they just began to take stuff over. They defeated the Israelites. The king was dead. His sons were dead. And so they began to take foothold into every part of the country. Okay? And they've been in this undisturbed possession of the most important, the principal places of Israel. And so they have just found out that David has been named the king over the whole country. He had been a king over a small section. He's just been named the king of it all. And so they're going, we have to act now. We have to act now before he begins to put his military together, before he can do it. So here we go. And so just this incredible army fills up this valley. So that's what's going on here, okay? So chapter 5... Verse 17, when the Philistines heard that David had been anointed king over Israel, they went up in full force to search for him. But David heard about it and went down to the stronghold. Okay, what was the stronghold? The cave of Adullam. Wow, okay. Now the Philistines had come and spread out in the valley of Rephaim, so David inquired of the Lord. This is awesome. Shall I go up and attack the Philistines? Will you hand them over to me? Listen to him pray. Listen, that has to be our first instinct. I have to come to the place in my life when there's something, I pray. How about this? I pray. How about this? I pray. How about this? Let me ask God. And so here he's facing this thing. He's at the stronghold, the cave. He sees this. Okay, God, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to attack them? Are you going to hand them over to me? And will you hand them over to me? The Lord answered him, go, for I will surely hand the Philistines over to you. So David went to Baal Perazim, and there he defeated them. He said, as waters break out, the Lord has broken out against my enemies before me. And so the place was called Baal Perazim. The word it talks about a breach, that God breached the army. Okay, the Philistines abandoned their idols there, and David and his men carried them off. There's another translation. The King James says they burned them. They carried them off and burned them. See, it was customary when armies went to war, they would take their gods with them. Remember when the Israelites tried to do the same thing as the heathen? The heathen would always take their gods until one day the Israelites go, we better take the Ark of the Covenant. Remember? That didn't turn out so good, right? It got taken and put in Dagon's temple. Remember? He walked in the next day and Dagon is flat on its face. Remember all that? Hello? Okay, thank you. All right. Come on. Okay, so what happened is the Philistines had taken all of their gods. They'd taken this and this totem pole, all of these things. And so when David defeats him, they run off and they leave their gods there, whatever it was. And so David's men, they get them all together and they set them on fire. They have a bonfire. It's like the homecoming. It's like the Texas A&M Okay, never mind. All right. Are there no Aggies in here? I thought I would hear a one whoop. All right, okay, we'll go on. All right, so they burn the idols. Once more, the Philistines came up and spread out in the valley of Rephaim. Woo! Little side note: don't ever forget this. You win a battle, and you don't ever, ever, ever let your guard down. You pray, you fight, you think you whip something, and you go, don't do it, because here they come again. I mean, they have been wiped. Their idols burnt. I mean, and here they come again. Listen, you got to learn that principle, okay? Terry and I talk about this a lot. It's like every day's a fight. Yeah, it is. It's a fight. Listen, you were made to fight. You weren't made to retire. You weren't made to put up your feet in your spiritual lazy boy and go, God is so good. Listen, it's a fight. You got to stay armed. You got to stay ready to fight, okay? All right. So here they come again. Remember the Oswald Chambers thing, one of my favorites, an unguarded strength is a double weakness. Okay, don't think you got it whipped and let your guard down. You become doubly weak. All right, so they spread out in the valley of Rephaim, and so guess what David does? He inquires of the Lord, and God says, okay, this time, don't go straight up after them. Another little side note. I'm just, after this weekend, I just got so many little tidbits of stuff for you. Listen. So this time, David goes, okay, what do I do this time? All right, this time, don't go straight. You circle around to the back. Listen, when you pray for your kids, God, tell me what to say. Tell me what to do. Here's what's going on. God, I mean, listen, do you hear God? Everything, there's a specific answer for a specific situation. We have to learn to pray and think like that. Okay, God, you did this before, but do I do that again? No. This time, does that make sense? In a minute, I'm going to ask you some really hard questions at the end of this part of the story, okay? So, God, what do I do? All right, yeah, go again. I'm going to hand him over, but this time, don't go straight, circle around to the back. Okay, this is incredible. Go and attack them in front of the balsam trees. Some of your translations say mulberry trees. I love mulberry trees. My grandparents had mulberries on their place. In fact, my mom's home place, my granddad built these houses on there. He and his dad, my great-grandfather, and it's these neat old stone houses, and there were mulberry trees everywhere, and so we called the place Mulberry. And in fact, when at the end of his life, my uncles, my mom's brothers, were these brilliant businessmen. One was the vice president of Shell Oil over foreign fuel. The other served in the Reagan administration as a comptroller. I mean, these brilliant guys. And so my granddad was a cotton ginner. and a fundamental Baptist preacher. He would preach on. He was a bivocational pastor. Just worked like crazy all week and preached hellfire and brimstone. But he had amassed like $500,000 just through the years of just this and this and this. And so these boys put together this corporation to for tax situation and all that, to distribute the money to heirs and stuff, and they called the corporation, guess what? Mulberry Corporation. So Mulberry's that so God goes, all right, this time circle around back and we're going to fight them in front of the mulberry trees. And then what's this? Here's God. Listen to God. Okay, David, as soon as you hear the sound of marching in the tops of the trees, what? As soon as you hear the sound of marching in the tops of the mulberry trees, move quickly, because that will mean that the Lord has gone out in front of you to strike the Philistine army. Wow! Okay, I better not do that. I'm going to get in real trouble. So David did as the Lord commanded him, and he struck down the Philistines all the way from Gibeon to Gezer, however you say that. It's 18 miles from one town. It's like he chased them from here to downtown Nashville, just slaughtering them. Because he heard the sound of the army in the tops of the trees. Here's the question. Listen, don't bail on me here, okay? Why is it that we don't experience this? Why is it that we don't experience these supernatural directions, these things of God where God goes here, and the sound? Some scholars go, it was angels. Some say it was this. I don't care what it was. It was God. It was God taking care, leading, guarding, guiding His people in this supernatural way. Why don't we live that way? Because we don't ask for it. And we don't ask for it because we don't expect it to happen. And we don't expect it to happen because we don't have faith. And we don't have faith because we've walked, this is going to upset you, we've walked in this refined sense of atheism. We really have, in a lot of ways, because we don't really believe. Listen, if it's here, I'm believing it. I am. I've not seen the mulberry trees at my house move around, but hey, God, reveal yourself to me. God, I'm after you. I need you. I need you in my life. I need you in my home, my children. I need to hear the mulberry trees move. Yeah, that a boy, Dwayne. Come on, God. Listen. Does He or does He not see all things? Is He or is He not everywhere? Does He or does He not concern Himself with the affairs of His children? Will I acknowledge Him in all of His ways? Do I dare put my own wisdom and prudence and strength in the place of God's? Do I have faith in my Father? Do you? Then I have to exercise it. I have to cultivate it. I have to press into the heart of God to let Him be God for me. It's not enough for me to just play at it. It's not. Paul said in 2 Corinthians 3, this is amazing. You don't have to put it up, Herschel. This is in 2 Corinthians 3, verses 7 through 11, right in there. And he's talking about the old covenant. And Paul says, if the old covenant had glory, he's going through this whole thing. This is in the old. This is the old. This happened before Jesus. And Paul goes, if the old had glory, then how much more should the new have? This shouldn't be anything. We look at that like, wow. Paul goes, that's nothing. Because on this side of the cross, now you've had Jesus and you have the Holy Spirit indwelling you. This shouldn't be surprising. This ought to be every day. Paul said, if the old had glory, how much more should the new? Jesus said in John 14, if anyone has faith, he will be doing what I will have been doing. Not only that, he'll be doing greater things. Then why do we go, oh, wow. Listen, my life is supposed to be an oh wow. Your life is supposed to be an wow. Are you kidding me? My life ought to just, the sound of the mulberry trees ought to be just blowing through me, because that's my life. Gary asked me this morning walking down, he goes, why are you so happy today? He was being facetious. Because the angels are marching in the tops of the trees. Okay. That's the intro. All right. Okay, go back to 2 Samuel 23. This is good. Okay, so this is the war that's going on, all right? So during that time, David and his men, they were in camp. At that time, David was in the stronghold, verse 14, and the Philistine garrison was at Bethlehem. All right, so here it is. They're at the cave, and there's the army, and whatever. Okay, this is the same thing happening. This is a different story in that. All right. So there's the army, and they're sitting by this. They're sitting at the cave. This is just my idea. I mean, it doesn't say this. And, there's 30 guys. Who knows what's going on? And David just goes, you know what I'm thinking about? Do y'all remember that well in Bethlehem, right by the gate of the town? Remember that well? God, that water was so awesome. That was the sweetest, coolest, most refreshing. God, oh, I'd love to have a drink of that. These three guys, in the night, these three men. David's just like daydreaming. These three guys take off. Now remember, the whole army is in the valley. From there all the way into Bethlehem. And these three men, read after we're through, we're not going to get to it, read about these three men. So they're sneaking around, they're going, hours later they come back, here you go. David goes, what? Yeah, you said, how awesome would that be? Here you go. Oh, guys, I can't drink this. This is like holy. This is like blood. I would never, ever take a sip of that. Listen. What is it to you? What is it to you that's like the water of Bethlehem? Let me give you some of mine. But no, listen, don't take mine for your answer. Here's what we're going to do. Your water bottle in your hand is representative of the water of Bethlehem to you. Something that takes your breath away. Something so awesome that God is doing or has done. It's like, oh God, I am not worthy of this. No human being should be so honored by you to have this. Oh God, I am not worthy of this. I pour this out. Let me give you some of mine, all right? You make it yours, because in a minute I'm going to give you a chance to respond back to Him. Okay? So if you got a Sharpie or a pen, Terry, every day she goes through this regimen of water, and she has her bottle that we can't touch with her initial. No, I'm playing. She puts her initial on the top. Put something. She writes with a pen. Figure it out. Write somewhere. Get a Sharpie. Tell Carol to run get some. I don't care. But what you're going to do is you're going to go, this is the water of Bethlehem to me. Okay? I'm just going to give you a few. For me, marriage to my wife is a place of holiness. It's like, oh God, I am not worthy for what you gave me. To me, this is water of Bethlehem. It is sacred. It is awe-full. Not awful. It's full of awe. Like, oh God, this is holy ground. This is too much for. Listen, see, here's the deal. This is the point. Some of us go, yeah, I got married. Yeah, my wife, yeah. It's like, listen, what you do is you're wasting it, because it's like, it's just, I'm not trying to be gross, okay? I'm not trying to be gross. But when I drink it and I'm satisfied, in just a little while, it's waste. It's over. It's done. But when I pour it out, I'm reminded constantly, this is holy. This is an awe-filled place. It's not about me. It's not about my needs, how my wife makes me look. It's not about me at all. It's about us and about Him and about the holiness of God, the awe of God, filling this relationship where other people go, wow, I hear the tops of mulberry trees. Does that make sense? I can't drink thoughtlessly of a relationship. I'm in a quag here. I'm in a quag because I don't want to take some silly illustration out of these 3,000 illustrations for pastors. But the illustrations I know are just mine. So please don't go, okay, who does he think? You don't know me real well, okay? I always tread on this lightly when I talk about my family, but that's who I am. Does that make sense? Okay. So I want the holiness of God to be seen in this relationship. Okay, let me move on. Another one that I would write on my bottle is my children. Listen to me, young parents. Some of you, we may have to roll around out back. That's okay. God did not give you your kids to make you look good. I got some bad news for you. Your kids are not to make you look good. But you know what we do? That's what we do. I remember being at a baseball game and hearing this lady in the stands, "Make Mama proud! Make Mama proud!" It's not about you, Mama. Seriously. If you want to put your finger on the pulse of what's going on, come with me next Saturday to the gym. Because that was the pain of mine yesterday. See, when it's about the parent and not the kid, when it's about how it makes the parent look and how the parent, oh, I got to make sure my kids are happy. Let me tell you what happens. A mom that keeps the scorebook doctors the books so that her son or daughter can have the most points, and so the son or daughter that is not the star player, what has to happen is the really good player has got to foul out. And so this person doctors books when there's 3 fouls. Oh no, he's got 5. He's out. Bye-bye. That's 5. Really? It's not about you. For goodness sakes. My kids do not belong to me. My children are on loan from God. And I have a responsibility and the privilege of going, oh God, these are not mine. I don't want my fingerprints on them. I want them to be your fingerprints. This is holy ground. Listen, be careful, Mom and Dad. Be careful that you're not writing your kids' papers so that they get an A. Really? And stop doing their projects so they have the best paper mache volcano at whatever elementary school. Really? What? So you can go, yeah, my kid, yeah, wow, wow. So here's what we teach them. We teach them that it's performance and that their value is on how they act or how they perform or how well they're accepted. And you know what? Fast forward that into a life and they come to Jesus one day and their whole faith is, okay, what do I have to perform? You don't. See, most of us in this room grew up with this mindset. I have to work, I have to perform, I have to please God, I have to do this. Where did we get that? Listen, I don't have to, I want to. But because I am saved, Jerry read it this morning, it is by grace and grace alone that I have been saved. And it is by grace and grace alone that I walk today. It's not about my works. I want my works to be awesome, but they don't merit the love of God. I don't earn His love. He's not more proud of me. Okay. Wow. I got crazy on that one. We write the papers. We do the projects. Listen, I asked Terry to find that. She had this prayer. She prayed. This was years ago. And I go, you got to write that down, babe. And we couldn't find it yesterday. She hunted high and low and turned over everything. We've moved 2 or 3 times and it's in a box somewhere. But here's the gist of it. Now, let me back up. I got to tell you that when we were in our 20s, that it was about us. It was about, I was the youth minister at First Baptist Church, whatever, and that old paradigm of, it probably wasn't even said, but it was thought and expected. It's like, okay, your kids have got to, your kids have to be better. You better make those kids mine because they represent First Baptist Church and blah, 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 blah. And so, they're like every time they leave the house, there's bows in the hair and there's this and it was just about how it made us look. And I'm sad to tell you that I said this to Matthew yesterday. I said, you know what, bud? When you were small and I was dumber than now, I'm really dumb still, but when I was even dumber than this, I thought that it was about me. So I wanted you to be good because it made me look good. Yeah, my son's on the travel team. Big deal. What is that going to get me? But I did. It's sick. I was sick. So anyway, where was I going with that? Oh, the prayer. I better get on the prayer. So one day we're not as dumb as we were, and Terry, she's praying one day, and I go, oh, good grief. And God, we got to find it. But here's the gist of it. God, there's a part of me that I want my children to be successful, but God, I'm praying for failure. Would you let them fail, God, before they taste success? Because success too early is really going to hurt them. It's harmful, God, and I don't want them to be harmed. So would you bring failure so that they're not harmed? Wow. And God, our older ones, they've got some financial stuff, and it's in me to go, oh God, would you prosper them? But God, here's what I'm praying today. This is the gist. Terry, she prays it much better than me. Here's the gist of it. God, before you prosper them, would you let them be needy? Have real need, God. Because if you prosper them too soon, then all of a sudden they don't have a need for you. But God, if you keep them needy and you keep them crying out to you, God, give me this day my daily bread. God, where's my rent going to come from? God, would let be the answer. Does that make sense? Listen, that's a noise in the tops of the trees. Pay attention to the noise in the tops of the trees, Mom and Dad. I want my kids to be happy. I give them things and I bail them out of everything and this and that and this and that. Oh. Really? And I'm just bearing my soul here today. Boy, how do I say this? I've had to ask forgiveness from my older 2 or 3. You know what? I did a great disservice to you. Because it was about me, and I did things for you and didn't let you work through stuff. And you know what? There's something crippling about that. Now my younger ones, they go, golly, why'd you have to learn it so... Why don't you... I mean, can you do just a little for me? I'm like, now I'm going, you want to play ball? Go get a job! And Mary goes, but Daddy, I'm only what? I'm playing. Seriously though, you know, it's like we're learning from our mistakes. You know, and like now we go, you want to go to college? Mom and I'll pay 2 years, the last 2. I'm glad nobody laughed because that's not funny. It's like, you know what? Seriously, I'll pay 2 years of school. I'm not paying the first 2. You want to go to school? You pay the first 2. And after you've done all whatever you got to do and not go to class and blah, 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 and you flunk out and you pay Sally Mae and all that, then I got the last 2. But Daddy, that's going to take me 8 years. Great. You pay 1 through 6. I'll pay 7 and 8. I mean, seriously. Okay. This isn't about that, but these children are holy, holy gifts that I am not worthy of. I'm not. Every day I live breathlessly because of what God has given me. My purpose. The third thing I would have to write on my purpose, my calling, my whatever, to pastor, as a songwriter, at the things that I do, the way God wired me, I go, oh God, this is beyond me. God, to get to do this, to get to walk where I walk and do the things I do, oh God, it takes my breath away. That you would call me to shepherd people? Oh God, really? I pour it out. Listen, I don't drink this. I pour this. There was a time when I drank it. I was a youth minister. I mean, Terry and I we were in our early 20s. I had this flourishing youth ministry, and churches all over the country began to call. Kansas, whatever, First Baptist Houston, we want you to be our youth minister. Yeah, just, you know, I'm just like, it's because it was about me, and I'm sipping it like it's always going to, it's like now, oh God, I pour this out. Does that make sense? I'm going to hurry through these next couple because I want to give you a time to respond before just this short business meeting. Another thing I pour out is my friendships. See, Aristotle said, my best friend is the one who, in wishing me well, wishes it for my sake.